Hello, welcome to my little trip down road testing memory lane. Now, the Supersport test video I did went down surprisingly well, and again, loads of fantastic comments, so thanks to everybody for taking the time to comment. I, as promised, will do a little video just going back and talking about the time I rode Ross's M1. It's quite fitting actually, because it was 2006, and we're in a situation now where Rossi was in the same situation as Quartararo, where he could win the World Championship or he might not. By the time you've seen this, you'll know. But anyway, it was a journey that started with an event where I got this Rossi crash helmet at the end of 2005. And then a year later I'm riding his M1. But I'll come on to that. What I wanted to quickly do first is I got so many comments, and there was a lot of great questions in there, and I thought rather than just comment in the comment section, I would just read a few of them out and just talk about them there. There's lots of great questions there. You know, a lot of people are interested in what goes on in road test land. So hopefully I can answer a few, and if anyone wants to know anything else, you know, please feel free to ask. So I've got a handful here. So let me start with Ian White. He says he'd be interested to know how you're accepted or not with the hacks and experienced journalists of the day, and how you gain their trust and confidence over the years, or do they still think of you as the lucky boy winner? Well, whether you're accepted or not, I don't know. That's something for other people to say, really, isn't it? I mean, to be honest, it's not that important to be accepted by your peers in that respect, because we all work for different magazines. So whether or not we like and respect each other, I suppose, is irrelevant. I mean, the good thing is that we do like and respect each other. So it is from my side anyway. What you really need to have the respect and kind of trust of is the people well, probably the readers. That is the most important thing, isn't it? You need to have their trust, because although it's a really cool job and we get to ride all these lovely bikes, at the end of the day, a lot of people make their buying decisions based on what people like us say. So if you can earn their respect, that is the most important thing. And Ian also goes on to say, how did my journalism skills progress along the way? I suppose it is literally just experience, just doing lots and lots of it. I think, like I said in one of my previous videos, I think number one, you've just got to be honest. Number two, you've got to kind of open yourself up to advice and take everything in like a massive sponge. You know, when I first started, because I felt like I had this imposter syndrome. I'd won a job, and all the other people in my trade were sort of there on merit. I probably tried extra hard to be the best writer I could, be the best rider I could. When we kind of crept into the video age, I really wanted to make the best videos I could as well. I mean, that's a real developing, ongoing process. Yeah, I guess it's just experience and just being truthful. You don't need to be a certain level of rider, I've said before, as long as you've got experience of other bikes. There's no right or wrong opinion. You know, you could get Rossi to test a bike and his opinion might not be valid to the person who wants to know about it. I mean, racers talk about bikes in racing terms. As a road tester, you try and talk about the bike in terms of what the person who's thinking of buying it wants to know. So for example, most recently I've ridden a Moto Guzzi Mandello, so it'd be stupid to talk about out and out performance and handling on a bike like that. You need to talk more about the kind of the comfort of it and the touring aspects of it. So you just got to kind of know your audience really, and maybe inject a little bit of excitement along the way. But no, it's a good question, Ian. Thanks very much. But I still think I'm the lucky boy winner. Okay, so we've got the Natalie named RE650 NZINT Assess. Love the VR46 helmet on the shelf. That's that one. Love your style, sense of down to earth humour. Of course, we subscribe, like, and save. Graham Oldish from New Zealand. Thanks very much. We spent a fair bit of time in New Zealand with racing for Carl Cox Motorsport. Carl lives in New Zealand as well as Australia and the UK and all over the place, and we've been over to Kiwiland quite a few times. We've done a Leadfoot Festival over there, which is like a Goodwood Festival of Speed. Done a fair bit of riding over there. Got a nice few friends over there. They're great people. But yeah, that VR46 helmet, I'll talk about that in the next video. That was at Valencia, where Rossi came on a launch. It's the only launch Rossi's ever done, and it was a launch of the 05 R6. So it was kind of the last of the old shape R6s, which they gave upside down forks and radial brakes to before they went with the new style R6, which is more or less the same as it is now. And as part of that launch, Rossi came along. He gave all the journalists a crash helmet and signed them, and also he did some demo laps. They wouldn't let him on the track with us in case one of us knocked him off. And now, I don't know if you remember, that was the time where they also made a Rossi Rep R6. It was the sun and the moon, the yellow and the black. Not the best looking bike, but wow, like I say, that was the height of his powers, really. He'd moved from Honda to Yamaha. He was a year in at the end of 2 years in at the end of 05, and yeah, to meet Rossi at the time when he was just like had the Midas touch was incredible. But no, thanks very much, Graham. Thanks for your comment. Okay, Shadow Red 1980. I'd love to hear more stories from the early days. Well, I can dig out more MCNs. We can go through some of the old road tests. That'd be good fun. And over the 20 years, I dread to think how much I've spent on your reviews. Sorry about that. Most recent is the V4 Panigale. Please keep making the content and we will follow along as we have done for the last 20 years. Well, thank you very much. With that V4 Panigale, that's quite an interesting one actually. The launch of that was in Valencia, the beginning of 2008. I didn't actually do the launch. I was away racing down under with Carl at the Island Classic. So Matt Wildy actually did that launch. But after that, I had a long and beautiful relationship with the V4. I actually lived with one that year as a long-term test bike. Did all sorts with it. Rode it around the Nürburgring. Rode it to Croatia. That was a pain in the wrist, I tell you. And did lots of group tests with it, but it also signified a real shift in superbikes. Up until the V4, you know, Aprilias and Yamahas and Blades and ZX10s and all the rest of it have all kind of progressed on, got better and better, become far too good for mortals like us. But the V4 really stepped it up a level, and it's a level they just keep pushing and pushing now. You know, you've got a bike there with a proper MotoGP inspired engine, a really stiff chassis, incredible electronics. I mean, in truth, the only people that can really ride those bikes are proper racers and their test riders like Alessandro Valia. I don't know if you've seen any of the Ducati advertising, the guy that does all the crossed up wheelies and backing in and all the rest of it. He is incredible. There's only a handful of people that can ride those bikes, and for the rest of us mortals, they're really difficult. But that really sort of started the shift in almost superbikes becoming a little bit too irrelevant, a little bit too good. Yeah, I kind of see that as a turning point really in the superbike landscape. And I think I said before, like when we do 1000cc group tests now, they're all so fast and so advanced. You know, if you're going to ride one on the road, you may as well just take your pick, have the one you prefer. And if you're going to ride one on the track, you'd probably want to choose the easiest one to ride on the track. And Ducati have made the Panigale a lot easier with their electronics. I mean, their latest generation bike is a pussycat compared to the first 2018 V4, but it's just the level is right up there. So yeah, that interesting. Thanks for the question. What have we got now? Stephen Williams. I've been buying MCN since 1978. Thank you very much. I still have the RD350LC road test copy somewhere in the loft. A lot of us scurry away our magazines, don't we? So, wow, I bet that's worth digging out. I think everyone's got of kind of my generation, they've got an LC story, haven't they? Whether it's bikes you lusted after when you were growing up and used to see sort of the local scallywags riding. LCs kind of conjure up memories of the Pro-Am Championship where Neil Mackenzie came through. I had an LC350. That was my kind of first big bike. It never worked properly, and I did the most sacrilegious thing to it. I put a Power Valve F2 front end on it, thinking it would make it look new, but it didn't. It was an absolute dog's dinner. And with my MCN hat on, I actually revisited my old LC. Somebody I know called Peter Lawrence ended up buying it off a friend of a friend of a friend. TUM601W was the registration of that bike, and ended up making it into a race bike, a really, really good race bike that he raced in the past Masters very successfully. And I got to be reunited with that in about 2005 or 6. That was really special. And then since then we've ridden some Minters. A couple of years ago on road. John Urry, who's one of the other road testers, that MCN, he's got a mint condition LC, a white one with the blue stripes, bog standard, and the exhaust note on an LC is so distinctive, isn't it? So yeah, well done. You need to dig that LC test out of the loft, frame it. Okay, so Moto UK, question to Newsy. Do you prefer written journalism or today's modern video stuff? Well, I think I personally enjoy watching bike videos for entertainment, hearing the bike, seeing them move. I think written journalism is still the best place to go for a kind of a deep dive into finding out about what makes a bike tick, understanding the technical aspects of it a little bit deeper, and also reading great features. I mean, magazines, MCN is packed with fantastic features of people going out and enjoying their bikes and living with them and recounting their experiences. So I think there's room for both. I mean, for me, I couldn't make the videos without having first written about the bikes I'm talking about first. I'm not one of these people, a lot of people can do it. I can't get off a motorbike at a launch, have a video camera thrust in my face and then just wax lyrical about what makes it tick, because your thoughts aren't fully developed, and you might even change your mind about what you think of a bike after even a few hours after riding it. B, I can't remember everything I need to say about it, so I think I always do my video reviews a few days after I've ridden the bike and I've written the test for MCN the way it normally works. I write a test for MCN, I write it for online, I write it for bike, I write it for Ride magazine. By the time I've done all of that, the information is well and truly locked in, and I've got a pretty good idea about what I think of it. So I think the videos are kind of benefit from that process. In terms of moto journalists, I was always inspired by the PB crew of the sort of late 80s, early 90s. Matt Oxley, Rupert Paul, Mark Forsyth, Trevor Franklin. You can't say Trevor Franklin without smiling. Simon Hargreaves, and in more recent times, the bike writers, Bike Magazine, the Tim Thompsons, the Mufkas, the list goes on. There's some fantastic motorcycle journalists out there, absolutely fantastic. And then in terms of videos, I mean, I watch, I'm sure most of you do, watch YouTube videos more than normal telly now, so I've written them down. Some of my favourites, 44 Teeth, I love them. Bike World, Missenden Flyer, I watch that a lot. Billy Bolt, he's really good. Gypsy Tales, Johnny Ray, Taylor McKenzie, Tommy Searle. It's just, we're so lucky now to have all that sort of content at our fingertips. In terms of MCN, I hope that both continue running side by side. I think that all the time, I think print journalism for ultra specialist subjects like motorcycles, I think should stand the test of time. I hope they do anyway. Okay, Duncan Orr, I'd love to see a road test revisited series. Well, that's perhaps one for MCN. Looking back to 999s and K5s, it'd be great to hear your views now compared to then. Well, yeah, you do change your opinions after time. You know, bikes mean different things 20 years later than they did do at the time. I think you look back a lot more fondly, that's for sure. I mean, 999 and K5 stories, the 999 I kind of joined just after the launch. I think the launch was in Misano with Trevor riding. My first experience with the 999, we did a test. We did 999 and 998, and then we did a 749 and 748, and we went along to one of the, I think it was Millbrook, with Michael Rutter, and he rode all the bikes and gave us our opinions. That was right near the beginning of my road test story, and it was like, blimey, I'm in this automotive facility with Michael Rutter testing all these bikes. What a thrill that was. And then the GSX-R1000 K5, wow, I mean, like the LC, that's got a special place in everyone's hearts, hasn't it? I was first exposed to that. I did the launch. I was lucky enough to do the launch at Eastern Creek in Australia. They flew us out to Sydney. Those are back in the sort of rock and roll launch days, really, when there was a little bit more money swilling around. I even think they sent us business class Suzuki, which absolutely unheard of now. Ryanair all the way. But I remember just a line of K5s there, remembering what an important bike it was. So there's a lot of pressure, you know, on your opinion, but it was a no-brainer. It was an amazing bike. Schwantz was there. He was kind of razzing around with us, and I remember back then thinking, oh, he's an old has-been. But now I think back, he was younger than I am now, and I still think, well, I don't feel like a has-been. I probably do to a lot of people, but anyway. And in that K5 story, we did loads of group tests, and it just wiped the floor with all the thousands of the day, which was saying something, because the R1 and ZX10, the R1 ZX10 and Blade had just come out the year before. They were brilliant. And then I got one as a long-termer, did everything with it, toured Europe all over the place. I had it for 2 years. I raced it every weekend. I used to race that bike, turn it into a race bike for the weekends, and turn it back into a road bike again afterwards. There's some great times on that, on the K5. So I'll leave it there. If anyone's got any other questions, just feel free to put them in the comment section, and I'm going to get busy now to try and find the Rossi MCN. We'll have a look to see what else was in the paper around about that time. So it would have been November 2006. We got to ride all the bikes that year, the full set of 990s over 2 days, a Monday and a Tuesday after the main race. I remember being there the weekend, during the race weekend. Everyone thought Rossi was going to win, didn't they? But Rossi fell off, to the point where all the fireworks and the firecrackers were all yellow. So when Nicky Hayden won the championship, it was all yellow Rossi fireworks. Yeah, that was a really special time. You know, riding race bikes, I'll talk about it more in my next video, but you know, it's a dream of anyone that loves racing, you know, loves riding track days and riding fast. You know, what's it like to ride a pucker race bike? In many ways, the good bit happens after the event. Leading up to the event, there's a lot of anxiety there. You don't want to show yourself up, you don't want to fall off. Quite often race teams don't want you to ride their bike, because why would they want to see some numpty go around the track 15 seconds slower than their real rider? Quite often race bikes don't really fit properly. They're always too small for bigger riders. They only work when you're riding flat out, and if you don't ride them flat out, you're riding a different bike, and you're not getting the tyres up to temperature. I mean, I won't say who it is, but I remember going to Sepang. We rode Hayden's RCV 2005, and we only got 3 or 4 laps, long laps around Sepang. But I did overhear somebody talking about the edge grip on a MotoGP bike and why the rider might be suffering because of the lack of edge grip. If we could get anywhere near the lap times of the actual rider, we would be in that paddock ourselves, wouldn't we? But anyway, that is a story for another day. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you soon.